So first, I want you to tell me about the African-American caregiver that you interviewed from Rochester. Her mother has a brain tumor, and certainly she requires a lot of care, doesn't she?
Yes, so I spoke with Miss Washington, and I mean, she's a delightful person. The care she has for her family is just present constantly when you're speaking with her.
Mhm.
But something that she spoke to or spoke about was the fact that it's so difficult, and it's quite isolating. I mean, she doesn't want everyone to know about what she's going through. She also takes care of her mother with her sister, who is much more forthcoming about what they're going through, but Miss Washington doesn't want to talk about it. Because she feels like it's very personal, it's private. And something that I think is very important about us doing this story is that so many of the caregivers across the country are doing this work and they just view it as like, I have to do it. It is what it is. I'm doing this work for my family. And that was actually one of the most difficult parts of the story, finding people to speak with, because if you say, I'm looking for caregivers, people think, oh, you mean like a professional nurse or a professional doctor, but they don't think about themselves as caregivers when Miss Washington leaves work at 5 p.m., puts on her clothes to take care of her mother. Like she's doing two jobs, she's performing two jobs, and that's indicative of caregivers across the country. But because of the way that it is very much a personal family thing, people aren't considering themselves as working two jobs. They're just saying, I'm just helping out my family. Like it is what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And do you find that, Ty, especially indicative of African-American caregivers, that, that is just what we do, and they don't really see that as, as you said, Adria, as caregiving, right?
Right. Yeah, they don't usually see it as caregiving, a job. They just feel like it's something that they must do because that's what a lot of Black care family does. They just take care of their family.
And that's what it's really kind of expected. I know with my parents, always said, they would joke, my dad especially, that he didn't have much of a retirement plan, that I was his retirement plan. And I would like to think that he invested wisely. But I really do feel, as a child of a man who worked 3 jobs to put me through college, as a janitor and as a washer and dryer repairman, and he drove a school bus, and he did all this to put me through school. It's my responsibility to take care of him now. Do you find that that's kind of the thinking among African-American families, Adria?
That's absolutely it. I spoke with several people, even just coworkers or friends, talking about how stressful it was trying to find people. And they were like, of course, you're just going to take care of your family. It's not that, what are you talking about? Of course, you're going to do this. Because it very much is your family poured all of this love and support into you growing up. And now it's your responsibility to pour it in. It's something that, like you said, from childhood, parents will joke about, like, we all understand that this is what's going to happen as your age and as you age, that you're going to be the person who's taking care of them, even if it is isolating, even if it is difficult, you just understand that this is your responsibility.
Absolutely. So in California, the center recognized that there was a need for emotional, mental health, psychosocial support for African-American caregivers. Adria, tell us about what they created in California.
So that was actually Ty's part of the story.
Oh, okay. Ty, you want to tell me about that?
Okay, so it was the University of Southern California, their family support caregiving group. There's the director over the program, Dr. Donna Benton. She offered services. She offered services to support caregivers.
Mm-hmm.
There's a woman, Miss Bobby Okolonu, who about, I think it was like 2010, she had to take care of her mother. She was a sole caregiver for her mother who had dementia.
And she's also single, right?
She is.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It
so
makes
she,
caregiving so much harder when you don't have spousal support.
right, so she was
Yeah.
taking care of her, it was just her. She had no assistance from outside family. Her mother passed away, and then she knew that she went through so much, with the isolation of solely caring for her mother, and she wanted to help and offer some type of services for other women like herself, especially Black women. And so she connected with, she had been going to classes at the University of Southern California, and she talked to them about a partnership.
And she had gained so much from those classes, and she was going to support groups too, right? The University of California. And she had gained so much from that. She said, I really want to give back. We can broaden the work that you're doing. So
Right.
tell me about what she did in order to bring those services to other women in the community.
So she partnered with Dr. Benson. She was a lifetime member of the AME group church in California, Los Angeles, California. So, and she had a love for community. So she spoke with her pastor, she spoke with Donna Benton, and she started a support group through AME.
Wow. Yeah. And when I read that part of the story, I thought to myself, that is something we could do here. You know, certainly we know that the African American church is the heart of the community. You know, the civil rights movement sprang from the church. It is really kind of the center of so much of who we are and what we do.
Mhm.
So why couldn't we transfer something like that that's being done there in California here? Do you think that that's something we could implement here in Rochester? I'll ask you, Adria.
Absolutely. So even with speaking to Miss Washington, she does get some support from her church. Most of the people to whom I spoke, even just casually, do get the support from their church. There just aren't these formal groups. They're getting informal support. So the pastor might pray for the family, an elder or deacon at the church might pray for the family or offer words of support, but they absolutely could just create an actual formal group that is here to provide actual like assistance to people. And it would be very easy for a group to come together and do something like that in Rochester.
Absolutely. And for caregivers to get together and, for example, to meet together, to have dinner together, to talk about some of their challenges, their struggles, and their solutions to those struggles. Being able to, as a breast cancer survivor, I know how much I have gleaned from other survivors, you know, in support groups. Why couldn't that be implemented for caregivers? It just seems like kind of such a natural kind of outgrowth,
Mhm.
right? I wonder too, did you find in, certainly I as a caregiver get support from church members. They'll come and sit with my dad if I have to go to, you know, the grocery store or something. But I find that there are limits to what I can ask. Right. So my dad has dementia and he wears a diaper. I would never ask a church member to be there long enough that he might need a diaper change. So that puts real limits on how long we can be gone. You know, my husband and I haven't been out on a date in a year because we will not leave my dad for any lengthy period of time. And we have no family support.
Mhm.
So did you find, Ty, that there were any of those kinds of supports, or was it just emotional support? Was it, you know what, we can also provide some respite care, or we can put you in touch with services for respite care if you know, would like to, for heaven forbid, go out for dinner and a movie. Was there that kind of support offered as well?
Yeah, somewhat. There they got a lot of support from USC who had resources and connected with and used each other as resources as well. They were looking into getting trained, like they didn't have trained nurses or trained, but they're looking into that. But there was resources available to them
Mm-hmm.
through USC, and they heavily relied on themselves for support for things that were like not medical
Right.
related. Right.
Absolutely. So how did this form at USC? Is this the outgrowth of some kind of educational geriatric program at USC? How did
Yeah,
that? Okay.
it's through the geriatric division at the college.
So perhaps that is something that that perhaps the University of Rochester could do, right? That they could be, or I've forgotten the name, Lifetime.
Mhm.
You know, that they could be kind of the, I don't know, the anchor, and then the church groups could look to them for resources and guidance, right? So this sounds like something that could definitely be, you know, transferred from a California to a Rochester, right?
Definitely.
Yeah, that's the beauty of solutions journalism. So often as reporters, we're telling the community about issues, but we're not giving answers to the problems. Solutions journalism absolutely does say, here's what's happening, and it empowers people knowing that you're not the only person that is experiencing this, but also it gives you an answer to whatever problem you are experiencing. Because I mean, now people in Rochester know that Californians are working towards this, and we can do the same thing here.
Excellent. And we are going to end with that. That was so well said. Thank you so much, Adria. So when we put our little segment that's going to be on the web, I'll start with that first question. I'm just going to end with what you just said, Adria. I wish I had so known. I didn't realize that you were taking care of the problem part, and then you, Ty, were doing the solution, because you were having trouble finding caregivers and you had one in me. So, you know what I'm saying? So we discussed early on that I was going to find a caregiver, but my caregiver backed out. And so I said to Michael, I said, we're caregiving in our house. I'm taking care of my 85-year-old father. I can do a first person story about our experience. And you also could have interviewed us. So
yeah, it would have been really nice. It was, so I took care of my mother when she had breast cancer, and then we took care of my grandmother shortly before she died. So it's actually been very beautiful for me to be able to speak to other people who are doing similar things.
Absolutely.
I see every day I worked on this story, how important it is to have support and just have other people to empathize with what you're going through.
Girl, yes. Oh my goodness. And I think that's what's been so hard for us, for me and my husband. My husband, we are very fortunate in that we're married, so we have each other, and that we can live on one income, mine. And so my husband decided to stay home with my dad and be a stay-at-home dad. And that has been extraordinarily isolating, because you don't see any men doing that work.
Yeah.
Right? And so I have found that it has really taken a toll on his mental health, which has then taken a toll on his physical health. He's been in and out of the hospital the last several weeks. And so I'd say that to say that the work that I think we are doing through solutions journalism is so important, because it has such a profound effect on so many lives. Caregiving is going on in silence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd really love to see something happen in Rochester. It made me think about Nene Leakes actually on Real Housewives.
Absolutely.
When she was helping take care of Greg, she tweeted about how frustrating it was and got a lot of vitriol back. But like, she is the person who is doing this every day.
Yeah.
I wish I had been able to put that in the story, but
I know. And the vitriol she got, I think, is from people who were absolutely clueless.
Yep.
Because other caregivers understood her frustration, understood exactly where she was. Doesn't mean you don't love the person you're taking care of.
Yeah.
It just means that you wish you had more support in doing it.
Yep.
Yeah. Excellent. Thank you so much, ladies.